Hey guys, in this video I'll be showing you guys how to make your air combat system. And yes, it's a 2022 updated version. I'm hitting it out for all those people that asked me to make an air combat video. This is for you guys. So the first thing you want to do here to start this video, to start the script off, is by first you want to make your animations. We're going to make a folder and we're going to parent it to our replicated storage. We're going to have our M1 through our M5, so basically our basic combat animations. Then we're gonna have our hit stun for the other player that's getting hit. Then we're gonna have our blank, so basically when we go in the air, our arms just don't fly around everywhere. It's gonna be in one position. Then we have our ascend, which is gonna be our ascend animation. So when we put the player in the air, that's gonna be our animation. So if you want to do like a little kick up animation, you can change that to ascend. Then we're gonna have our effects, and we only have one effect inside our effects folder right here, which is going to be our punch effect. And I already removed our punch effect. I already moved the punch effect to the workspace, so I don't have to move it from replicated storage. So it's basically right here. This is how it looks like. It has an attachment inside of it, and we just customize it the way it is. And then we're going to have our remote event, and then we're going to have our creator module. And this creator module is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to look more into it, you can download this inside of our Discord. And yeah, let's get right into the script. Alright, so now we're going to create a local script inside our starter character script, so that will be inside our starter player. And what we're going to do here, we're going to get user input service, replicate storage, we're going to get run service, we're going to get the player, and we're going to get our creator module that's a replicate storage. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. Then we'll get our character, then we're going to make our variables. So we're going to have our variables, which is going to be space equals to false, so it's going to help us indicate if we're hitting the space bar or not. We're going to have our last hit to indicate when like the last hit was basically detected. It's going to help us detect that. We're going to have our reset cooldown, then we're going to have our event. Now we're gonna have our distance, which is 4.5. Then we're gonna have function enable jump and disable jump, which is basically gonna be changing the player jump power, because we're gonna be changing inside a local script, because it was much easier to do it than doing it in the server side. So basically when they're M1ing, they won't be able to jump while they're M1ing, so they can actually spacebar and they can go in the air. Then we're gonna connect the function input began. Then we're gonna input an is type into the parameters. Then if is type, then we're gonna return n. So they can't use the key. So they can't basically use M1 while they're typing. So if they have the chat open and try to use M1, it won't work. So basically, then we're gonna do if input.user input. Then we're gonna do input.user input type equals nm.user input type mouse button 1. So it's gonna help us indicate the mouse button 1. Then we're basically gonna make our eye. So it's gonna be our look vector of the human root part. Then we're going to create our parameters for our ray casting, so we can basically get distance between so we can make a ray in front, so we can make a ray and check what's in front of us. So first we're going to make our parameters. We're going to blacklist our character so they can't detect us when we're making a ray. Then we're going to make a variable called ray hitbox, and we're going to basically make this ray. We're going to make the then we're going to do human root part C frame. We're going to change it to position, and then we're going to do, and then for the direction, we're going to do eyes.distance. So our eyes is our look vector times the distance, which is 4.5. Then we're going to add our ray cast parameters, basically the old-fashioned rays and new rays that they added. Then we're going to fire server, and then we're going to fire hitbox and hitbox.instance, and then we're going to fire space, which is going to fire true or false. And then we're going to disable the jump, so we can't use the jump once this is fired. Then we're going to set last hit equal to tick. Then we're going to do events going to be equal to our run service, and we're going to make the event equal to run service. So when we want to disconnect it and stop it, we can just basically do the disconnect right here. So then we're going to do if tick minus last hit is less than or equal to last hit, then return n. So basically what this is doing right here is basically going to tell us when the last hit was detected, and if not, it's going to enable the jump. So if they don't punch for, let's say, 2 seconds or like a second and a half, then it's gonna make them jump again. And then we're gonna disconnect the event, and then we're gonna set the event equal to. Then if they do hit the space, this is basically just saying if they hit the space, but then we're going to change space equal to true. And then we're gonna have our input ended is gonna be for space as well. And if they let go of space is gonna be equal to false. And then basically what we're gonna have here, this is gonna be part of our server script. So we're gonna go into the server scripts. We can come back to this part. Alright, now we're going to get into our server script. So basically what we're going to be making, we're going to add a script into server script service. And this is basically this is really, I wouldn't say it's hard to understand, but it's going to be a lot of code, around 300 lines. So let's go to down to show you guys. So I'm going to try to break it down, try to explain as much as I can for you guys. So first we're going to get all our services and everything that we need up here, pretty self-explanatory. Then we're going to make our local setting, and what we basically use object-oriented programming inside of this. So this is something, it's probably going to be something brand new that you've probably never seen before, or the type of style that's been done. So we're going to have our setting, and we're going to have reset combo, check distance, cooldown, air cooldown, and force. self-explanatory. It's not too much to talk about there. Then we're gonna have our player data. We're gonna set equal to a table. We're gonna get our animations. We're gonna do replicate store the animations. Basically, it's gonna be the folder. Then we're gonna have our auto animation blank. So basically, when we go in the air and we don't make sure our arms fling around. Then we're gonna have our animations. We're gonna have M1 through M5 put inside of here. Then we're gonna have our func table, and we're just gonna be equal to a table. Then we're gonna do set player data. And then we're gonna do player. Then we're gonna set player data, and then we're gonna have player inside of here. We're gonna set it equal to a table. And then we're gonna have local player data is gonna be equal to basically player's data player. So basically indenting the players into our player data table, if that makes sense. So basically what we're gonna do now, we're gonna set all our variables to player data so we can access it through the table essentially. So all the players index, if that makes sense. So we're gonna have the dev equal to false, last hit 0, combo 1, target equal to nil. We have our player that's gonna be us. Have in there false, and we'll have the event equal to nil. The cooldown is going to be equal to setting.cooldown. Then we'll have our auto animation equal to nil. Then we're going to set meta table. Then we're going to do player data, which is going to be the table that we want to get the table that wants to inherit the functions, and it's going to be, and then we're going to do underscore index equals func table. So basically all this means is that everything that is, if we can't find a certain function, or if we can't find a certain function inside of the player data, we're gonna check inside func table to see if it's inside of that. So if I just made it not too complex for you guys, so just checking to see if we can't find a certain function inside of here, we're gonna check inside func table. This is down here. If you guys get a little bit confusing, if it gets a little bit confusing for you guys, all we're gonna do here, we're gonna make our start movement. Pretty self-explanatory. Start the move for our character. And we have a stop movement. Then we're gonna have the func table, and then we're gonna have our function descend. So as I said before, it's gonna inherit all the functions from func table. So we can't find it here. We're gonna get from func table. So all we're gonna do here, we're gonna do func table descend player data. So this our player data through the parameters. So what we're gonna do here is the local char. So basically, self is gonna be equal to player data. So if you guys ever get confused, so we're gonna have player data dot deb last hit combo target. It means all this. So when we do self dot player, all we're doing is getting the player, then we get the character. So that's why we get a char. So self shouldn't be too confusing, because self really helps you optimize your code, so you don't have to do the same thing over and over again. You can change things really easily with self. And then if we do self dot target, then we're gonna change the targets. So the person that we're hitting, we're gonna change their we're gonna make their anchored equal to false. That's all we're gonna be doing there in our descend function. And then for our func table, we're going to do reset combo. So basically what this is going to be, we're going to be resetting the combo. So if we find a target, then we're going to start the movement for the target, and we're going to fire target through the parameters. Then if we're in the air, then we're going to do self.descend. So our function that we have up here. Then we're going to set the in air equal to false. And then we're going to do if self auto animation. Then we're going to stop, destroy, set equal to nil. So this is all like the hard resetting for the code. So then we're gonna do self.combo equals 1. Then we're gonna do self.combo is gonna equal to setting.cooldown. Then we're gonna fire client to self.player. So basically when I mean self.player, it's gonna fire this. It's gonna fire the enable jump. Don't worry about this right here yet. It's gonna fire enable jump so we can be able to jump. And where we at? And we're gonna set self.target equal to nil. And now we're gonna have our func table, which is gonna be our animation, how we're gonna be playing the animation. So we're gonna get the character, and if we don't get the character, then we're gonna return n, and we're gonna get the animation. We're gonna set the animation to self.combo. So self.combo is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's gonna play the animation according to what self.combo is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Then we're gonna load the animation. We're gonna set loop equal to false, so it doesn't loop over and over again. We're gonna set a property equal to action, and then we're gonna play the animation when we fire this function. And then we're gonna have apply particle. So we're gonna have func table apply particle. We're gonna fire space to see if it's true or false. And then we're gonna do if self.combo equals 4, then space, then return n. The reason why we're doing that is because when we are about to go into the air, we don't want the particle to apply when the character is on the ground. We want it to apply when they're actually in the air, or we don't want to apply at all. Because when we're ascending, we don't want to see the hit particle. Unless if you do want that, you would just remove this line. You would just move this. You would remove all this in the first place and just ignore it. So then we're gonna have local punch effect. It's gonna be replicate.effect.punch. So basically, all we're gonna do is clone the effect that we have inside of replicate storage, and then we're gonna parent it to our primary part, which is the same thing as the human root part, and then we're gonna C-frame it to our human root part, aka our primary part, and I'm just gonna make it go by 0.2 studs. And then we're going to do game.deborah's add item, and what we're going to be doing, we're going to be firing our punch effect, and we want to remove it by our setting.cooldown. So every time we punch, and then we're going to add plus 0.15 so we can stay a little bit longer. And then what we're going to do here, we're going to have our func check distance, and then we're going to fire P1. And never remember self is our player data if you're starting to get a little bit confused. And P2 is going to be our distance, and P1 is going to be the humanoid distance that's near us. So if we hit somebody, P1 is going to be the magnet. It's going to determine the magnitude between my distance and the player that I'm hitting to make sure that I'm actually hitting them to make sure it's more optimized. So P2 is basically going to be equal to the human root part position, and all we're going to do is get the magnitude of P1 and P2. They're going to say if it's less than or equal to setting dot. Then we're going to return the magnitude between P1 and P2 is going to be greater than or equal to setting dot check distance. So it's going to help us optimize our hitbox code. Alright, and then we're going to do local human. Then we're going to make our function called local function get human, and then we're going to get hit. And all we're going to do here, we're going to return hit.parent find first child, which is a humanoid, or if we can't find that, we're going to do find, then we're going to do or hit.parent.parent. So I'm going to parent up, and we're going to do the same thing, find first child, which is a humanoid. So basically going to make sure we actually find a humanoid. We make sure we can optimize this ray so we can actually make sure we're actually hitting a humanoid and nothing else. And then what we're going to do here, we're going to have func table, then we're going to have reset combo checks. So just make sure that everything's working in place. And now we're going to do we're going to fire hit through here, and then we do self.in_air. And then we do if we are in the air, then we're going to return true, and then else if self.target, so we actually have the target, and if not, check distance. So if we do not find, if they're not within our radius, then we're going to return n, and if not, we're not in the air. If we can't find ourselves in the air, and if not hit, so we don't find anything inside inside of our how can I explain it? If we don't find the humanoid, then if we don't find if we don't find the humanoid inside our get hit function again, and if not self.check distance, where we're gonna check distance again to make sure that if we're within the distance of the character. Well, if we're in the distance within, if we are within the distance with the player that we're hitting. So I'm not trying to make it too confusing at all, because this might get a little bit confusing, but all we're doing here is just checking if we're within a certain radius, making sure that we're actually hitting a humanoid, and make sure this humanoid is getting saved. And the goal here is to make sure this does not return, but if it does, and our main goal is we want to return true, and if it does not get returned, we're going to return n to basically everything here. Then we're going to have our func table hit, so this is basically where all like the magic is basically going to be happening. And then we're going to find a humanoid, then we're going to do stop moving humanoid, and this humanoid is going to be the player that we're hitting. So what we're going to do here, we're going to get the animation. We're going to set our animation so to us, and we're going to set our enemy animation. So this enemy animation is going to be the animation that they're going to be playing when they're getting hit, and this is going to be our regular animation that we're going to be doing while we're hitting them. Then we're going to change the properties to action 4, so override the other animation that we currently have. Then we're going to set equal to false, the loop. Then we'll do the same thing to our enemy animation. So to our animation, then our enemy's animation. Then we're going to play our animation. Then we're going to make the humanoid, make them take damage by 10. You can change that to whatever you want. Then we're gonna increment the self.combo to 1. So we're gonna add 1 to the self.combo, and then the self.combo is greater than or equal to 6. So basically, when we're on our last M1, then we're gonna basically create our knockback. So we're gonna be using body velocity. I try to use assembly velocity because that's the more updated version for Roblox. But I couldn't get it to work. But I'm gonna try to update this inside our Discord. So if you're inside our Discord, you'll have an updated access to the air combat system. So if you want to join Discord below, join it right now, because I will be changing this code slightly so it's more optimized. I feel like body velocity is deprecated now, so I want to give you guys the most updated work. So just a heads up to that. And all we're going to do here is we're going to parent it to our human root part, which is going to be us. So self.target.parent.human root part. Then we're going to get a max force is 1 times 100,000. Then we're going to set a velocity to 111. There's going to be self.parent. So basically the human root part look vector. And then we're going to do times math.random, and then we're going to do 10 as our smallest number, and it's going to be whatever our setting.force is, which is going to be 55 for us. Then we're going to do game.deborah, then we're going to do add item, and then we're going to do effect velocity, and then we're going to remove this effect velocity depending on what our cooldown is. And then we're going to have our func table. So this is basically an example of object-oriented programming. So I don't want to get too in depth with this because I want to make a video on how this actually works, but I'll just give a quick brief. So basically what we're going to do here, we're going to have func table, then we're going to fire send, and then we're going to fire humanoid. And when we put these semicolons here, whatever we fire after this, it actually has to be a actual property of Roblox. So we can't just put like my name is Jeff inside of here. It has to actually be an actual property for Roblox. So when we put a question mark right next to it, it's basically gonna be nil. So if it doesn't find nothing here, it's basically gonna return nil. So now we're gonna have our player PP. So it's basically gonna be our primary part for our player. It's gonna be a primary part for our human right here. And then we're gonna check if our self.com was equal to 5, and then we're gonna create our params, and we're gonna set the blacklist to our player so we can't detect us. Then we're gonna start our array. Basically what we're gonna be doing here, we're gonna be creating the array. So the primary part.cframe times a negative times cframe.new on the negative z axis by 30. So it's gonna be a long array in front of us, and then we're gonna make the array point downwards, and we're gonna fire our RC param. So we're gonna be ignoring the player. And then if there's actually an array and we actually see ground on the floor, then we're gonna loop through the humanoid. So the player that we're hitting, we're gonna do humanoid.parent get children, and if not v is a base part, then we're gonna continue n. This is gonna help us basically get all the base parts of. It's gonna help us get all like the base parts for the humanoid, and then we're gonna create our twin. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna loop through v, which is gonna be our arm, our human root part, our right leg, our left leg, and then we're gonna do tween.info.new. Then we're gonna do 0.2. Then we're gonna make the style linear. You can change however you like, but I just made it pretty simple. And then I changed the position to the start rate position, and I made it go up by 1 a little bit, so it doesn't knock them. It doesn't keep them really. It doesn't force them into the ground really bad. So they're gonna be a little bit above the ground. So we just set the vector3.new, then we just change it to 1 on the y-axis. We just add 1. Then we're gonna play the animation here. But if self.com was not equal to 5, what we're gonna do here, we're gonna do if not human, then we're gonna return n. So we can't find a human, we're gonna return n. We're gonna add 1 to our combo. We're gonna increment 1 to our self.combo. We're gonna do our self.cooldown is gonna be equal to our setting.air cooldown, because now we're gonna be starting our air cooldown. Then we're gonna animation. We're gonna our send animation, so the animation that we're gonna be using when we hit the spacebar M4. Then we're gonna load our animation, basically make the loop equal to false instead of priority equal to action 4, so overrides. The duration, so how long we want to be in the air. Then we're gonna have our speed. So basically this is gonna help us it's gonna help us adjust the speed for the animation. Then we're gonna do adjust speed for the animation, so load animation to speed. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. Then we're gonna play the animation, and then we're gonna do self.idleAm is gonna be equal to the human.load animation is gonna be equal to our So basically we're gonna be setting our idle animation equal to our idle animation that we're gonna be using inside of. So basically this is our player data, and our player data that we have up here, which is, let me scroll way up for you guys. We're gonna set our idle animation equal to our actual idle animation. And then all we're gonna do here is set a property, set a loop, so we make the loop equal to true, so we actually can't move our arm while we're going up. So just set it to action, just play it. Then we're gonna do task.wait2, and then we're gonna anchor the human root part for us and also the player. Sorry, the enemy's human root part and our human root part. And then we're gonna do, what we're gonna do here, we're gonna do we don't need this no more, but because I was testing around with stuff, so I'll just remove that. I forgot to remove for the code. But this is what we're actually gonna be using here. So for our new C frame, we're going to do human root part dot C frame. So it's going to get the enemy's human root part. We're going to multiply by the C frame dot new. Then we're going to go up 15 studs, and there's going to be -4 in front, -0.4 in front. So so we have some space between them. Then we're going to loop through the humanoid again. And we're going to get children. So we're going to get all the base parts. So we get the arm, leg, and etc. And then we're going to make a tween, and we're going to loop through the parts, and we're going to make our simple tween info. And then we're going to C frame it. Then we're going to do C frame equals new C frame, which is going to be our human root part. It's going to be the enemy's human root part times the 15 studs up. And then what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing b.c frame, the two object space. So it's basically going to so it doesn't make it just only go up. It's going to actually use kind of physics and make us go up in a certain direction. I don't want to explain too much about this, but it's pretty easy. It's gonna orient it. It's gonna direct it to object space. I'm not really gonna explain it, but I'm gonna try to explain it the way I can. But you can just look more into this if you want to get more information. But all we're gonna fire is our humanoid. We're gonna fire our C frame for our enemy. We're gonna fire our enemy C frame, and then we're gonna play it. All right, then what we're gonna do here for our tween 2 is we're gonna get ourselves equal. Then we're gonna get ourselves equalized with the humanoid that we're hitting, and then we're gonna do tween service create. We're gonna fire our player primary part. Then we're gonna do the same thing with tween.info. Then we're gonna do cframe equals new cframe.new. So basically the same thing that we have here. And then all we're gonna do here is gonna be customizing and adjusting it so it actually makes it look straight at them when we're in the air. So we're gonna have 2, and then we have -4 for our Z. Then we're gonna do cframe.angle so we actually turn around so we're not facing the same direction as them, we're actually facing them. And then we're gonna play that tween, then we're gonna play that animation so that tween 2, we're gonna do play. Then we're gonna do self.in equals true because now we're officially in the air because we just made the tween so we can all see each other in the air. And then we're gonna have our delete player data. Then we're gonna fire player. So we're gonna do the same that we did up there. All we're gonna do here is all this right here is basically just deleting the player data, so everything's just getting removed. And we're gonna fire that reset combo function, so it's gonna reset everything that we had. And we're gonna set our player data dot player equal to nil, so we can move the player from there as well. And then what we're gonna do here, we're gonna be firing our set player data and delete player data, so when the player joins and removes the game, it doesn't like, if you have a data store and you want to like make sure that everything's saved properly, this would be really helpful, but we're just gonna keep it here just to be optimized as well. So we're gonna have our set player data, set up player data, and delete player data, which is gonna be right here. And now we're gonna get into the actual code. All right, now we're gonna get into now we're gonna get into the part where it connects everything together. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna get our remote event, which is gonna be our combat event, our onto event connect function. And we're gonna fire player hit in space. So get a player, they're basically gonna get, this is gonna be our array, and this is gonna be the space. So if they're the space bar, if they're holding the space bar or not. So if we can't find a player, then we return n. Then we're gonna do local player data is gonna be equal to player's data and then player. So same thing we did on the top of the code. Then if we don't have the player data, and then we're gonna set up the player data for the player. So if the data is not set up at all, we can't find where the deb is, where the combo is, we're gonna set it up for them. Then we're gonna end it there. Then we're basically gonna be creating our debonds here. And then we're also gonna set that true right there. And then if not, so if we can't find the character, we're gonna return n. And then if we so basically this is gonna be our cooldown. So if we can't detect the so if we don't hit a button within our cooldown, so that'll be 0.45, then we're gonna return n, and then we're gonna set our player deb to true. And then we're going to create a peak out here, so if there's an error, this is so makes that the debound doesn't get reset. That's why we put it there. So we're going to have local success, and we're going to have errors, then we're going to have peak out function. So then all we're going to do here, if not play, so if we don't get this reset combo check, so if we're punching and we everything's going fine, then we're going to play the animation. Then we're gonna basically increment 1 to the player combo animation. And remember, this is the same thing. This, and we since I added OOP, so the object oriented programming, what this is gonna basically do is we're gonna inherit the functions of the func table. So we're gonna be using ascend and all the other stuff with our player data because we inherited the functions. So it might get a little bit confusing from here if you don't really understand, but I'll try to break it down even more for you guys. So we're gonna increment 1 to the combo. And then the combo is greater than or equal to 6. Then we're going to reset the combo, which is our function that we did up there. And then we're going to do local humanoid. Then our humanoid is going to be equal to our target. Or if we can't find the humanoid from our target, then we're going to do get humanoid hit. And then we're going to set our target equal to the humanoid. And then we're going to fire our apply a particle. And then we're going to fire space so we make sure that if it's true or not. So we can make sure if that M4 is actually going to have that little particle applied. And if player.deb in air, if not player.deb in air, then we're gonna do player.combo. If player.combo equals 4 and they're hitting the space bar while they're on the M4, then we're gonna do player data ascend humanoid. So you see how we're doing player data ascend and how we have up here we had func table ascend right here. This right here is inheriting all the functions, so we get all the functions from func table. So player data gets all the functions from func table, so we can use ascend. If that makes sense. I'm not trying to make it confusing for you guys. So then we're gonna do else player data hit humanoid, and then all we're gonna do is fire the hit function we made. And now we're gonna do player data.combo is if player data.combo is greater than or equal to 6, then all we're gonna do is reset the combo, and we're gonna do test our wait. So this is gonna be our initial wait cooldown time. So this is gonna be our overall time. So how long do you want to wait until your M1 so you can do an M1 again? And then we're gonna have our else statement here, and then all we're gonna do is basically this is gonna be all like on the last M5. This is everything that's gonna happen. So we're gonna make our anchor equal to false, Then we're going to do the ascend here, and the only reason why we're firing ascend here is because we have our else statement inside of our ascend. So since it's going to be equal to 5, we're going to fire this so they can actually get, so the other player can get smacked down to the ground. And yeah, so the other player can get smacked to the ground, so that's why we're firing it twice here. So this is going to fire them actually in the air, this is going to fire the player back down to the ground. Then we'll get our animations, which is going to be an animations 5, so it's going to be our final M5. And then all we're going to do, we're going to load the animation, and then we're going to set the loop equal to false, the property to action 3. Then we're going to adjust the speed to however we like, so animation now length divided by 0.2. Let's make it a little bit faster. Then we're going to play it. Then we're going to make the humanoid take damage on the Then we're going to make the humanoid take damage. And then what we're going to do, we're going to fire all clients, and we're going to fire the player data. So we're going to be firing the player. We're going to be firing a string value called down, and then we're going to be firing the enemies. We're going to be firing the enemies human root part C frame times incremented by 30 in front. So we're going to go here. So remember, we have here, this is going to be the actual player. This is going to be the down value that we had right here. So down. And this right here is also going to be our target C frame. So this target C frame is going to be how the our character, not our character, but the character that we're hitting's position is going to be placed. This is going to be the position. So if not value or not target C frame, to return N. Then we're going to do if the value is going to be equal. So if the value is equal to down, then we're going to do task.wait.2. So we're going to have a little wait before the actual creator module actually is created. Then we're going to do creator effect.create. Then we're going to do 8. So what's going to do here, we're going to have the number. So basically the radius is all here for you. Then we're going to have the position. So we want this to be the position. So we're going to have the target C frame dot position, because that's what we want to position it. And then for the radius, we're going to have how big we want the rocks to be. So the rock numbers. So we're going to add 2 here. You can customize however you like. So yeah, just have fun with that. Now we're going to do here, we're going to reset our combos because we finally finished our M5 combo. And then we'll do delay. We can actually use task.delay here, but we'll just keep it as delay. Then we'll do 0.2, and we're going to fire function. We're going to make the humanoid take damage 2. So instead of us using another wait, we're going to use a delay function. So we can just make the humanoid take damage when they hit the ground. And then if not success, then we're going to warn error. So if there is something wrong with any of our functions that we have that we had previously, it's going to warn us and tell us what the error is. And then all we're going to do here is we're going to reset the debound. So we're going to set the last hit, and then if not, player.event. Then we're going to set a player event equal to run service. And then basically, right, what we're going to do, if tick minus player.last hit is less than or equal to setting that reset combo plus the cooldown, then we're going to return N. So basically what this is going to do is going to help us to indicate when we're actually when we're actually done with the whole animation, like we're not even punching at all or nothing. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna reset combo player. So we're gonna reset everything like we would never punch at all. Make it go back to normal. We're gonna disconnect the event. We're gonna set the event equal to nil. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. I put a lot of work into this video. Me and my partner Striker, we went full out on this video for you guys. We got a lot of requests from this video, and I hope you guys really learned something and enjoyed this whole video. And I really hope you guys really learned something. And we have more banger videos coming up, and I'm trying to tell you, we're going to change. We're going to make more consistent videos for you guys. And if you guys like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace. Have a nice one.